Welcome back to the Fixed Ops Roundtable. I'm Sarah Vantine here today with Steve Greenfield of the general partner of Automotive Ventures. Steve, I am looking forward to our conversation today.
Sir, it's great to catch up. Thanks for having me on. It's always nice to put the industry into perspective.
And Steve, we are always talking about the future of automotive retail, and we've got quite the topics for everybody today that we're going to cover. But first, before we get into all of the questions, just for our audience today listening, tell us a little bit about Automotive Ventures and what you do.
Yeah, we've been investing now for about 5 years, well, almost exactly 5 years. We're on our third fund. We've made 48 investments. A lot of it's dealer-facing technologies, and we typically invest as early as possible. Try to find these entrepreneurs where they're either pre-money, pre-revenue, or they've got their first handful of dealers, and put some money to work, a small amount. We typically invest about $500,000 initially and then support them over their growth. So we've had some really great growers, as you know, probably most notably WarCloud, but a bunch of companies that have done extremely well. And I think we're on a good path now. We've made, like I said, 48 investments, and hopefully we'll continue to invest at about 10 companies a year.
And Steve, this perspective and this investment that you go through quite the list of companies that want to be part of this, and then, like you said, you only select a select few for this really this opportunity to partner with you. But thinking about the broader market in general. So as we're kind of peeling the layers back of the onion and talking about what's going on in automotive retail, because of you're in touch with all of these different companies and seeing everything happening throughout the industry, you have a really unique perspective of what's happening in the marketplace. So first, I'd just like to get your take. What's going on in the end of 2025, and what can we expect going into 2026?
Yeah, it's a great question. Still a lot of uncertainty. I were talking in the green room before the call. As of last month, we saw that new car prices have peaked at over $50,000 for the average new car. And that and also an environment where interest rates are higher is just a challenge for consumers to get financed. We've seen a bit of a blip increase in default rates for subprime customers. Luckily, not really for prime customers yet. But whether you're a prime customer or a subprime customer, you might be carrying a vehicle with negative equity from back in buying in COVID days, where everything was selling above MSRP. Dealers are having a harder time getting consumers with negative equity into a new car that's more expensive, whether it's a new or used vehicle, and with higher interest rates. So more important than ever, dealers need to focus on those things they can control. They can't control the economy, but they sure as heck can control parts and service and fixed ops overall. So, that's the theme of today's conversation. But I think, we need to continue to help our dealer partners figure out what they can control and pull the levers on the things that they can control, which includes, to a large part, fixed operations.
Well, and I'm glad you took the conversation into the fixed operations, because this is a really good opportunity. I mean, it's not a great opportunity when you're talking about the front end of the house and vehicle prices, increasing, and some of the payments and the rates, continuing to climb as far as those vehicles go. But the back end, there's a lot of opportunity for customer retention and to really enhance the customer experience in that retention process. And we're seeing a lot more use of different types of tools to really help in that. So could you share with us a little bit more about that outlook? What are some of the ways that dealers are really staying ahead on the technology side in fixed operations?
Yeah, well, luckily, when I started in the industry 25 years ago, I remember my very first NADA was in Orlando in 2000. And as I walked around that floor, almost all of the vendors on the floor were trying to help dealers sell an incremental car, right? More leads, more car sales, whatever it might be. Luckily enough, over the last, say, decade, and definitely 5 years, we've seen many more entrepreneurs focusing on fixed operations. And dealers have clued in, hey, more than half of my profit is generated through fixed ops. I need more technology solutions. And the entrepreneurs have followed, right? They understand that the dealers are looking for more opportunities for fixed ops. But I would say still, if you look at the proportion of vendors at the NADA exhibit floor, you still, the vast predominance of them are focused on variable ops and not fixed ops. So I do think it's a great opportunity for entrepreneurs to be focused on this space, and a great opportunity for dealers to be looking for new vendors to partner with to drive more efficiency, either more revenue, more profitability, taking out costs, or what have you. The first wave of AI really in the space has been focused, interestingly enough, on fixed ops. A lot of it is helping dealers take phone calls. So NADA stats show that the average dealer for fixed ops, I believe you can correct me, Sarah, but they don't answer 38% of the calls. And I can now turn on some AI engine to answer 100% of the calls, both during operating hours and after operating hours. And for the more simple questions, which might be, is my car ready? Can I make payment for my car? When can I pick up my car? The AI bots seem to be doing a pretty good job of answering those questions. Obviously, when the questions are more complex, or the AI bots get confused, they have to hand it off to a human, which they also do. They pass off sort of the warm customer call. But I'm very excited because I think we're seeing the first wave of AI innovation really around fixed ops, answering phone calls. And it's going to get much more complex here and exciting, frankly, as we see AI start to be able to make outbound calls, texts, chats, etc., emails to consumers. And I think the dealers are going to benefit greatly.
Well, and I want to go back to the entrepreneur side of this equation too, because there's a lot of people listening today, and they're thinking about the market outlook. They're thinking about all these pieces, and they're like, well, I'm not really sure, in a sea of all these companies that I'm considering and thinking about
Mhm.
in technology, where should I really look? So, could you walk us through maybe some of the companies that you're looking at, some of the ones that you've recently made investments with, and what our listeners today can really glean from that side of fixed operations?
Yeah, I empathize with dealers. I have for 25 years. When they walk show floors like NADA, it's awfully confusing. They're being pitched a lot of things, and it's hard to discern from one vendor to the next vendor. I would start with very practical use cases. What are you trying to solve? What's your strategy? And that might be, increasing the amount per RO, or helping my technicians bill more hours, or whatever it might be. But start with, what are the objectives that you would like to drive over the next quarter or next year? And then work closely with either your existing vendors or new companies to see if you can drive those metrics overall. Some of the companies we've seen recently, one of the companies that we know quite well, Sarah, Busy Car, which helps dealers identify VIN numbers in their local area that have open recalls, and then get that recall work done in their shops. I mean, they just raise money, as we saw, a significant amount of money. So the founder, Ryan Maher, is doing very, very well. But he started with a very practical use case. Like, there are a bunch of VINs local to me of my same brand that have open recalls. How to identify them and get some of that work done? That's been a great home run for him. Kudos to him. He's built a really nice business. One of the companies that I mentioned earlier that our first investment was in War Cloud. I serve on the board and work very close with Jim Roche, who's been on the show a number of times, but very practical use case, which is let us help dealers make more money and get paid faster through their warranty reimbursement back to the OEM. And we automate that process on behalf of dealers. So I do think that it is confusing, to your point, Sarah. They're going to be swarmed by a bunch of different vendors, and it's hard sometimes to make sense or tell the difference between the pitches I'm getting from different vendors. The important thing is to start with what you're trying to accomplish with your business, and then seek out vendors that can uniquely unlock those KPIs for you and help you accomplish your business goals. It's otherwise, I think it's really very, very confusing sometimes with just the sheer number of vendors that are out there.
That's so true, Steve. And in going on the other side of the equation, in talking about dealers looking at the NADA expo and getting overwhelmed, it's almost like you have all these browser tabs open. When you walk into an expo, and it's just overwhelming, the amount of information that's out there. But thinking about really the objective, I would say, for a dealer that's attending, the Fixed Ops Roundtable or any of these events, they're wanting to take away pieces of information that are really going to help them, as you said, really make a strong business case for the problem or the thing that they want to elevate within their service department or within their sales departments. We're seeing quite a exchange from the customer side of the equation, where customers are becoming far more educated about the products, far more educated about the technology that's in these vehicles. But there's still a lot of opportunity that service drives and dealerships are looking at to really make a better customer experience. So you mentioned one already, the BDC and automating, AI phone calls and having some of those being taken off the dealership's plate. But what other types of technology are you seeing that are really being successful with that customer experience?
Yeah, so I think it starts with the website experience. The service schedulers themselves are getting smarter. So we're seeing some innovation there where, matching a consumer to the right time of day, where the right technician's available. And they're not just dumb service schedulers where you can schedule at any time and they get 30 people coming in at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday and getting overwhelmed. So I think just some very simple yet very effective kind of enhancements around scheduling really help. And then we're seeing more tools for the service writers or the technicians themselves. Automated tools. You've got what Joe Shaker is doing with True Video, for example. He just raised a bunch of money. Transformational technology that helps sort of a technician get under the car and video what they're proposing in terms of an upsell, and then have a communication with a consumer easily over text that sells the consumer. The consumer is effectively selling themselves. When I see, ooh, yeah, there is oil leaking under my car, I better give them permission to get work done. It's dramatically more effective than someone sending sort of like a PDF of a proposed invoice, and then me trying to figure out should I approve this work or should I not approve this work? So I think that everyone, the CRMs within service, these solutions that are very clever with trying to figure out how dealers can convince consumers and make it easy for them to upsell themselves, pay online, schedule time to bring their car in and or pick up their vehicle. We're seeing all sorts of new technologies emerge that we wouldn't have seen sort of 10 years ago because there wasn't the entrepreneurial focus on fixed ops. And the last thing I'll say is, then the hope is with AI, we're going to make all of these products that much better. So we should be able to automatically understand, what Sarah needs or what she prefers when she comes in to get her car picked up. Does she like a loaner car? And if so, what are her typical choices that she chooses for these kinds of things? And I think that, we're about to see a dramatic step up in the sophistication around how we treat the consumer within fixed ops. And a lot of that will be driven by these AI powered new startups.
It's so incredible to hear your insights, Steve, and pivoting a little bit to kind of talk about the global automotive industry, because one of the unique things that you do, you have the opportunities to go around the world and really see what's happening in other countries and other markets outside of the United States, and really get this global perspective about what's happening broader in our industry. So what are you seeing today that dealers, in the States should be paying attention to?
Well, I start with the Chinese, and it's easy to say we don't need to worry about the Chinese because we have these tariffs. But if you ever vacation outside of the U.S. in any country, you're going to see a lot of brands on the street that you don't recognize. And if you get a chance to either talk to someone who's driving one of these vehicles, these Chinese vehicles, or if you get to rent one of them, I encourage folks to do, because the quality is dramatically better than it was 20 years ago with these Chinese cars. They're building relatively cheap cars, inexpensively, but high quality with great technology. And the pressure is on then for automakers around the world. Not so much in the U.S., but it is squeezing their profit margins, back here at home, because they're losing market share globally. I think that as a result of that, I think the OEMs are trying to figure out how do they compete, and they're going to be trying to drive costs out of production. And they're also going to be adding more technology in their cars. Both of those things is going to ultimately impact fixed operations at dealerships. So we're going to continue to see cars with more and more technology in them, which is great, because I think the consumers are going to clue in that the average independent repair shop is not going to be able to repair these things. It's going to drive a lot of loyalty back to the fixed operations department at franchise dealers. But we're also going to see cars that in many ways are very hard to fix. The sophistication of the technology, coupled with the focus, OEM's focus of driving costs out on the production line, are going to mean certain components and parts are going to become very expensive to fix. So I think we're going to continue to see an increase in just the cost to repair vehicles overall. I think that ROs will go up over time as a result of all this. But we are going to run headlong into consumers' ability to pay. So we're going to have to figure out how we make sure that consumers can actually pay for these repairs. I mean, it's great as a dealer to say, well, ROs are going to go up. This is going to be great for me. I'm going to be making more money than ever. But we're also going to run into consumers. We know consumers have a hard time making it sometimes paycheck to paycheck, never mind when they're shocked with work that we're recommending that they weren't expecting overall. So I think that we need to also be very deliberate with thinking about how do we let consumers either finance some of these repairs with buy now, pay later, or other solutions like this, because in many cases, consumers might get sticker shock when they realize that, slowly but surely it's getting more expensive to maintain my vehicle because of the technology in these cars.
Well, and Steve, that brings up another interesting point in this conversation that really affects the dealerships as well. And we've talked quite a bit about it at the roundtable, has been really the technician, their evolution in this experience that the customer is having. As you mentioned, the technician is becoming more front and center in the video process when the service advisor is sharing the information that's found during the course of the repair order. But, in thinking about what a technician has to be able to diagnose effectively, all of the technology that's coming on these vehicles and all of the different software updates and pieces that, are going to get more and more complicated. How do you see, the role of the technician evolving in this landscape? And, dealers are already having some of those challenges with retention of technicians. Just would love to get your thoughts on all of that as well.
Yeah, I think that any way you look at the future, the technician's skill set is going to have to continue to be upgraded because, as you said, the technology is going to advance. It's not going to get easier to work on vehicles. So if I'm a technician out there, this means job security for me, right? If I'm specializing in one brand, be it BMW, Toyota, or what have you, like I need to keep upgrading my skill set, which can be daunting. Keep continuous learning, but at the same time you're going to become very, very valuable to dealers overall. I think the flip side, if I'm a dealer principal or running a fixed ops department at a dealership, it's going to continue to be challenging to win over and find really good technicians. And when you get them, and they are great, as we know, we've got to try our best to keep them overall through compensation or other perks or whatever it might be. But I think that the one benefit I would say is because cars are becoming effectively technology devices, we may be more successful with encouraging kids that are either graduating from college or from high school to look at a career path within working on these vehicles, because it isn't just turning wrenches anymore. It's like a lot of it is going to be the technology of these vehicles. And I do think for someone young, early in their career, just starting out, they may look at this and say, well, this is fascinating, right? I'm passionate about vehicles. I really like the fact that this is going to be much more of solving technology problems than it is simply going to be doing oil changes or turning wrenches. So I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, right? The technicians are going to have to keep upgrading their skill set because the cars are going to get more sort of technology focused. But at the same time, it might be a unique opportunity for us to lure in folks, young people who look at this as being an attractive career because because of the technology challenges and the technology that they're accustomed to now being applied to their day-to-day.
Lots of great information, Steve. And, before we wrap today and talking about automotive ventures, I want to go back to really what you do as a whole, because it really is an important component of our industry. You look at so many different companies, but our listeners today, if they want to learn more about, investing or, just the industry in general, what are the next steps?
That's quite a softball for me, so I'll swing hard at that one, Sarah. Thank you. I've got a newsletter that goes out every Monday at 7 a.m. Eastern. It's free. You can subscribe either on LinkedIn, or if you go to our website at automotiveventures.com, you can subscribe. We've got about 15,000 folks that subscribe to it now. And I put a lot of work into that to curate the news of the last week that I think is really going to resonate for the industry. So if you want to check it out, there's no cost. And then just poke around our website. You can find me on LinkedIn. You can poke around our website and see the kinds of companies that we're investing in. We'd love to talk to you about potentially being an investor. But I mean, conversely, if you come across an early stage company, we'd love to hear about them. And if you're considering, making a vendor selection between a few companies, I'm happy to be a thought partner, and at least let you know what I think about the companies, what I think about the space, and if we've come across those companies in the past. So don't be a stranger. I mean, I'm happy to make new friends in the industry anytime, but we are looking to find, great entrepreneurs to invest in. So if you come across any, please let me know.
Steve, you are a great friend of the industry, as you said, and we always appreciate your insights here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Learned a lot today, and I know we're going to have even more incredible conversations coming up going into the new year.
Sarah, it's always nice to be here with you, and thanks for having me. And greetings to everybody out there from the Fixed Ops Roundtable.
Well, everyone, on behalf of Ted Ings, we have Steve Greenfield here with us today talking about the future of automotive retail here at the Fixed Ops Roundtable. Steve is the general partner of Automotive Ventures. You can learn more about Automotive Ventures at automotiveventures.com. Right there in the bottom of the ticker, you can reach out to Steve directly or find him on LinkedIn. But everyone, stay tuned. We have more exciting segments coming up next.